Hello Leo, and welcome to your new moon lunar cycle insight video for the cycle beginning with the new moon on the 9th of September and culminating with the dark moon period as we head towards the Libra New Moon on the 8th of October. So this is a month or a cycle that we begin still immersed in those grounded, practical, earthy energies, as there's an earth trine forming in the skies between Mercury in Virgo, Saturn in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus. You know, Saturn is stationing direct at the moment, so he's at his strongest. He's still in Capricorn. And we, of course, have the sun and the moon coming together in the sign of Virgo, the sign of earthing and grounding, the sign of, you know, tangible, practical details and manifestation. As the month unfolds, the energies will begin to shift somewhat as we head towards this upcoming Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and the Sol star moves into Libra, the sign of partnership. And we have a lot of chironic energy happening as well. So we turn really from this focus on what we can build in the outer world into our inner world and learning about ourselves through the mirror of others. So the new moon for you, Leo, will be rising in your second house. And this is a beautiful energy because the second house is a Taurus ruled, Venus ruled earth house traditionally. So we have these, you know, two earthy signs coming together, which can really support you in grounding your visions for the future into reality. It's a very fertile house of the birth chart where we can plant the seeds of future harvest. So the intentions that we set when a new moon is in our second house often manifest into reality, more so than some of the other houses of the birth chart. So this is a really good time for you for looking at what you want to create in the material world. So the physical things that you wish to attract towards you. It's a house of resources and finances, so it can be a time when you can begin to set in motion things that will bring you future prosperity. However, we do have an opposition to this new moon from Neptune in Pisces in your 8th house. And this is the house of shared resources. It's the house of merging, of coming together. So we could also be looking at where our energetic and financial resources are leaking or being drained by others, or where we're not being very practical with our finances, where we are being wasteful or not respecting the gifts that we have been given financially. And it can also, you know, highlight issues around intimacy, around relationship, which is very interesting because on the same day, Venus, the love goddess, will move into the sign of Scorpio, where she will be undertaking the majority of her retrograde period over the coming months. So she moves into Scorpio and she's already in her retrograde shadow, which she stepped into on the 2nd of September at 25 degrees Libra. So Venus retrograde in Scorpio is going to be, of course, one of the most deeply transformative alignments that we've had in some time for our relationships. It's really going to be calling us all to look at our fears, to look at our vulnerabilities, to look at which relationships and connections are working in our lives and which aren't. We'll be looking deeply at areas of self-worth, of finances, of resources as well, which are all Venus-ruled themes. And for you, Leo, the majority of the Venus retrograde will take place in your 4th house. And this is the womb space of the birth chart. This is the space of comfort, of nurturing. And it's the space that is most connected with family, with home, with our connection to our ancestors and our parents. It really holds all of the memories, all of the energies that we would have picked up when we were in the womb of our mother before coming into physical incarnation here on this planet, or before being birthed into incarnation, should I say. So Venus retrograding here can bring up issues around how we interact with our family members. It can bring up old memories, very, very, deep cellular memories from childhood. We can really be looking at how our relationships in the now are affected by the inherited patterns from our parents, from the way that we were raised. And on a more practical level, it can really ask us to look at our physical temple, the home that we live in, the sanctuary that we come to rest and replenish and restore ourselves in at the end of a hard day's work. So there may be some issues around wanting to move or change location, or there may be some redecorating or some clearing and purifying that has to happen in your home environment around this time. And you might find that you become a little bit more introverted as you turn within to do all of this inner healing work during the Venus retrograde period. And it could be that you are working to find the balance between your home life, between your need for rest and nourishment, with your work life and career. Because we know that there may have been many, many changes happening in these areas of your life since May, when Taurus crossed your 10th house threshold and entered into that 10th house of career and purpose. And Venus will be opposing him 3 times during her retrograde journey. So there may be an element here of you having to find a balance between your work and home life. There may be the element of needing to make changes in both of these areas so they can come into more harmony, more balance. There may be some breakdowns and breakthroughs that happen in these areas. And of course, they will be accompanied by intensity of feeling, because we're talking about Scorpio. So perhaps, some of those old wounds may come up with a ferocity, but it's really just revealing to you where you are creating barriers and blockages, where you aren't allowing yourself to create intimate and deep connections, and where that old ancestral stuff needs to be dissolved and released so that you can move forward and create healthier connections and healthier relationships with your family, with your work colleagues. And Venus will also be journeying back into Libra on October the 31st, on Samhain Eve. She will journey back into the sign of the Scales, where she will station direct in November. And the 3rd house, especially when it's ruled over by Libra like it is in your chart, Leo, is very much connected with our social networks and our social connections. So we may find that our friendships and relationships, acquaintances, also come up to be reviewed during the latter period of the Venus retrograde. So it will be affecting you on both of those areas. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next video when she does move back into Libra for that short period. So on the 23rd of September, we cross the equinox point, we cross the equinox threshold, and the Sol Star moves from Virgo into Libra and initiates a whole new season. So for those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is of course that turning into autumn, that preparation for winter, that dissolving into the darkness. And for those of you in the southern hemisphere, this is about the reawakening of spring, the awakening of fire, the re-emergence, the rebirth after the long winter. But for wherever we are, that equinox point represents a moment of balance, day and night at equal length. The soul star and the lunar goddess are in harmony, and it asks us to create harmony in our own lives, in our own relationships as well, which is why it's represented by Libra. So as the sun, who will be traveling with Mercury the messenger, moves into Libra, he will enter your third house, which is the house I just mentioned about social connections and acquaintances and networking. And this can highlight a time of increased social activity, and it can highlight a time when we are working to express our truth, because the third house also rules over our throat chakra and our voice and how we use words. It's the house that reminds us that words create spells, they create magic. So when the sun transits here, we can feel the need to be more communicative. And what's really interesting this year is that as the sun crosses this threshold, it will oppose Chiron in Aries. And Chiron has been in Aries since the 17th of April this year, and he moved into your 9th house as he undertook that shift. And this is the house of ideologies, beliefs, higher wisdom and learning. So with Chiron here, because Chiron represents the core wound that we are dealing with, in the natal chart, it's the core wound that we're born with. By transit, it's the wound that we are dealing with karmically at this time. And Chiron in the 9th house can represent a wounding to our belief systems, to our truth. So this can really highlight this energy, particularly as the full moon rises in conjunction with Chiron on the 25th of September. It can really illuminate where we aren't sharing our beliefs, where we aren't speaking our truth, and what beliefs and patterns need to be reprogrammed so that we can connect with our source, our higher power, higher self, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, on a deeper level, and how we can express that teaching. And for some of you who are, sharing your wisdom with others, it can be a real call to share your vulnerabilities as a teacher, to really teach from your own pain, from your own understanding, from your own core wounds. So if we haven't been doing that, if we've been, expressing ourselves in a more inauthentic way, this moon can highlight that and ask to create change. But on a deep level, we're looking at a purification of old belief systems and ways of communicating, as this moon will be in square to Saturn, who we talked about in the last video, has been transiting your 6th house since winter solstice last year and has just turned direct as we approach this Virgo new moon. And this is the house of detoxification. So whenever that is triggered, we're looking at you letting go of something, Leo. And in this case, it's old beliefs, old ways of speaking, teaching, and connecting. So Venus will officially station retrograde on the 5th of October, and that will bring a new level of intensity to the energies that I talked about with Venus retrograde earlier in this video. This is where the journey really begins into the underworld for us all. And that will bring us to the dark moon before the new moon in Libra on the 8th of October, which will be falling in that 3rd house again. So it's a good time for setting intentions around what you wish to communicate and with whom. Setting intentions, speaking your words of clarity and truth about the direction that you wish your life to take at this time. So we'll talk about that new moon a little bit more in the next videos. And I'm going to pick a little card for you to bring culmination to this reading. And this is from the Goddess Oracle by Amy Sophia Maharashinki. And this is really interesting. This is the goddess Uzume. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it is laughter. So you may, obviously, with all of the intensity that's been happening over the summer in your sign, in your opposite sign, Aquarius, you may have really lost your connection to your joy, which is your natural state, Leo. You know, you're the creative child of the universe. You are the energy of authentic self-expression. You are the energy of pleasure and joy just for the sake of it. So if you've lost touch with that essence, this card can really say to you, you know, go out and have some fun. Loosen up a bit. All of that social energy that's going to be moving into your third house will support that. Will support that connection. Will support that energy of expressing yourself through your voice. So perhaps you just need to take a break and have a good laugh. You know, perhaps call up your funniest friend and see if you two can connect and create some space to have some fun together, or, you know, watch a funny movie or anything that really gets the energy moving, gets the rigidity loosened within you at this point, Leo, as you know, kind of prepare to turn inward with the Scorpio Venus retrograde in your 4th house. So thank you so much for listening to me, Leo. If you want to connect with me further, you can check the links below this video. I'm sending you so much love for an exciting lunar cycle.